Let's Play community. I am Kristen Kalina of Mastermind Adventures, and this is Mike Mahoney from the YMCA here in Swansea, Massachusetts. And Mike you're the manager, right?
I am. The executive director, yep.
The executive director, okay. There you go. I thought that he would be a great resource to talk about because YMCAs are so prolific, especially like you were saying here in the New England,
it is, yeah.
On the east side of the world, of our world. And I thought he'd be a great person to talk about from a parent's perspective. You're a dad too.
I am.
And also as the executive director, what kinds of things that he looks for in programming for the kids, for the community that he's serving, and also for his own family. So thanks so much for being with us.
Of course, thanks for having me, Kristen.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
So why don't you tell everybody a little bit more about you and your background and how you came to be.
So I started at the YMCA almost 20 years ago with a summer job working in summer camp, and somehow I never left.
Wow.
I've got my teaching certificate. I went to school to become a high school history teacher, and I just fell in love with the Y. I've done just about everything from lifeguarding to van driving to working with kids in the after school program. For a long time I worked with kids as a camp director and youth and teen director, so I would run not only sports and active play games, but also the enrichment stuff. We have a program here, as well as many Ys, called Leaders Club, which is an opportunity for kids in middle and high school to get engaged in their community through civic action, civic activity, volunteerism, and so I did that for a lot of years. And then I don't know, probably when I was in my early 30s, I switched over to membership and wellness and fitness and got more involved in that capacity. So I've worked at a number of YMCAs. I started in Seekonk at the Newman YMCA. I worked at the Fall River YMCA. I worked at the Gleason YMCA in Wareham. I worked at the Hockomock Y in North Attleboro. I worked at the Dartmouth Y, and last but not least, the Stoico First Fed Y here in Swansea.
Wow.
So
that's fantastic. So you actually trained as an educator before.
I did, yeah. I
in the midst of.
I was,
yeah.
So I graduated with my degree from UMass Dartmouth
Awesome.
in history, and then knew that I just had a passion for helping others and teaching.
Yeah.
So I took the teacher's exam and got certified to teach teach history and secondary education.
Wow.
But stuck with the Y.
Yeah. So you love it.
I do.
Yeah. So 20 years.
20 years, well, just shy. So 2000, what are we in? 2018, 18
I know,
years.
right? Yeah. I know. I'm like, I was doing that. Like, wait a second. How old am I? What am I? Right.
That's how I figure out how old I am. Is I have to do math backwards.
Right.
Yeah. Subtraction.
Because we forget.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's so true. So, so as somebody who's been doing this for a long time, has the needs of families changed? The needs of kids changed over time?
Well, I can tell you that a lot has changed. So even from my experience going to camp as a child, I grew up in Westport and Fall River, split time between both, and I used to go to the boys club when I was growing up, and the YMCA, both in Fall River. And there was a time when I was 9 or 10 years old, maybe 11. We'd go to camp, we'd come back from camp, and at the end of the day, I could sign myself out as an 11-year-old and just go walk down the street, go to the store by myself. You know, I remember walking to school in second grade.
Yeah.
So certainly this is a different world, and a lot of that has changed.
Yeah.
I could never in a million years think about, letting an 11-year-old sign themselves out and go do whatever they wanted now.
Right.
There's a lot more protective stuff that we set up now. So everybody that's coming in needs an ID to take a child. They have to be on an authorized pickup list. So in that regard, a lot has changed. I've also found that parents need a lot more communication now. They want to know exactly what's happening, and they want to make sure that they're getting a good value for what they're spending the money on, because we know that childcare and camps are not inexpensive. Right. We know that active programming and quality programming is not cheap either. So they want to know exactly what they're investing in and what they're sending their child to. For us, it's something that we've had to adapt and grow. No longer, I guess you never really could pick up your child at the end of the day and say, "How was camp? What'd you do today?" And typically the child says, "It was okay. I didn't do anything." Right? So we've got all kinds of new tools that we use. One of the big things that we started doing when I was in Dartmouth last year for our camp kids was a passport to camp. And so the kids would get a passport that they take around throughout their camp week. And the counselors and other kids, as well as the camper themselves, could log what they were doing.
Wow.
And they could choose a skill that they really wanted to work on. So we've got everything from STEM to archery to the ropes course. And let's say that they really wanted to improve their archery skills. There were 3 or 4 levels that they could try to increase their skill level, and all of that would be documented in the passport, and mom and dad would get to see that, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, whoever, would get to see that on a daily and weekly basis to see what the kids were doing in camp and the progress that they were making.
Wow, that's so fun.
Yeah.
I was as you were talking about it, I was thinking about like our LARP programs, because that has a similar kind of scaffolding, to that, and it just shows you that that's kind of universal. Like kids love to see their own progress and to show their own progress off to family and friends.
I think a lot of the stuff that we're doing now, Kristen, has to be progressive.
Right.
Because I think kids and adults, really, we get bored with stuff if we're sort of not moving forward.
Right.
I grew up playing video games.
Right.
And I used to love those role-playing games, and I would spend endless amounts of time just trying to level up, not even trying to go fight the next dungeon boss, but just trying to level up because it showed progress in the game. And I think...
You get the little rewards.
Exactly.
What do they call those? Badges, right?
Yeah, badges or whatever it might be, depending on the game.
Yeah.
But I think that translates really well into the real world and into our camp and active play programming, because it allows the kids to feel like they're accomplishing something.
Right.
And it shows progress for the parents too, that the kids are demonstrating that they're going from point A to point B. There's a roadmap there.
Yeah, and that's really important, I think, to parents, right? That they see that there's progress being made in different ways. So, talk about, we talked about a little bit about the history of the Y, but offline before we started taping. But talk a little bit about the origins of the Y.
The Y is a volunteer-based organization. It started in London in the 1840s for young men who maybe were getting into trouble.
Okay.
And it started as a Bible study group, and they would meet in the basement of a church weekly and just try to better themselves. 160 or 70 years later, it's evolved into this. And the first Y in the United States was actually in Boston on Huntington Ave. It's still there. That was not too long before the Fall River Y came into existence. And so the Fall River Y just celebrated its 160th year. The New Bedford Y just celebrated its 150th year.
Wow.
So we've got some of the oldest YMCAs in the country right here in our backyard. Many people may not know the YMCA invented basketball.
No, I had no idea.
So Springfield College, which is where basketball was created, was actually in many regards a normal school for YMCA directors. So if you wanted to have a career in the YMCA, you went to Springfield College in Springfield, Massachusetts.
Okay.
And so in an effort to get those rambunctious young men to calm down a little bit, they created basketball.
Wow.
The Y also created volleyball in Holyoke, badminton in somewhere else in Massachusetts, I don't really remember. They were the first organization to offer a gym class of sorts, physical education. The YMCA has done all kinds of stuff. They started step aerobics. They had the first personal trainers. The first swim lesson ever, organized swim lesson, was in Brooklyn at a YMCA. So the YMCA has really been on the forefront of physical activity, especially in the United States over the last 175 years.
And innovative programming.
Innovative programming.
Wow.
And so, we're trying to hold that torch and move it forward and continue on that path. The YMCA is also the largest provider of childcare in the country. 2,700 YMCAs in the contiguous United States. I'm not sure about Hawaii or Alaska, but 2,700 branches in the United States. Just about all of them offer some form of licensed childcare. And we also have the longest or the oldest running, continuously running day camp. And I believe that's in upstate New York, but don't quote me on it.
Yeah.
So that started sometime around the turn of the century, 1900-ish.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow. And so camp is also a very kind of integral part of the Y's history.
Yeah, YMCAs and camping, day camp, summer camps go hand in hand. And here at our YMCA, so we are one of 6 YMCAs in YMCA South Coast, and all 6 of our branches offer summer camp.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, 2 are almost exclusively summer camps.
Okay.
The Mattapoisett Y and the Dartmouth YMCA, they both started off as just summer camps, and as an opportunity for kids in the cities of Fall River and New Bedford to get out of the city and go explore something experiential in the woods, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, and that's really important, I think, especially for kids that don't have that opportunity. Right. Otherwise, it's something that's affordable for their parents to be able to and know they're safe, know they're getting they're getting out in the woods, know they're getting exercise. Right. You guys have done a lot of work in that area. Right? Yeah,
so most of our YMCAs, we're working on it here. We haven't gotten there yet, but most of the other YMCAs are ACA certified, which is the American Camping Association. Mm-hmm. They basically have 500 standards that you have to comply with.
Wow.
And so most of our YMCAs comply with that, plus we all have to comply with the Department of Public Health in your town to make sure that you're following basic standards
and protocols. That is no small task, let me tell you.
It is not. We probably start working on that in March, if not before that. And then even like the first day of camp, you're making sure that you're dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's. So it's certainly a safe place. Our motto is safe, fun, and clean. We want the kids to be safe. We want them to have fun, and most days of the week they go home clean. Unless it's a messy
It's okay
day.
for them to get a little dirty sometimes, right? Because then they're having fun.
Exactly. That's how we demonstrate fun.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So, so you've seen kids kind of change over the years, and kind of with the structure of what they're allowed to do, and kind of their freedom versus their protection and safety. Sure. You've seen parents' needs change over the years.
Absolutely.
With kind of what they need, because you guys also provide daycare so that
we do.
Parents can get some exercise too.
Exactly.
Right? That's very important.
Yeah. We try to service the whole family, I think is the best way to put it. So we have a child care room that our members can use for up to 2 hours a day. And we see a lot of our families taking advantage of that, where mom might go take a group exercise class, dad might go play basketball, and then we've got this room which is supervised, basically a 1-to-12 ratio staff to child. And the kids are having a blast. We have a huge play structure. We have different curriculum-based activities that we use in that room, whether it's about reading or coloring or counting or whatever it might be, or just active play. Kids come here and oftentimes they're asleep by the time they get in the car because they've been running around for 2 hours, which is great.
Yeah, that is great. I know when my kids were little, it was really important to be able to take some time, get on the treadmill for a while, let them have fun.
That's the
biggest. They look forward to it.
Yeah, it's the biggest compliment that we can get is when a parent tells us that they put their child in the car and they were asleep before they left the parking lot. Because that means we're doing our job.
Yeah.
And to your point, it's also it's important for the parents to have some time to themselves, and whether they want to work out with their significant other or they just want to work out on their own, getting the time to yourself to be able to decompress, to de-stress is such a vital part of our lives that oftentimes in this rat race of a world that we live in right now, we don't find time to do that. So, the stress of work, the stress at home, it can all get bottled up in there, and you get frustrated. You might get depressed, you might get overwhelmed. Having the opportunity to exercise either by yourself or in a communal group exercise class is a great way to let some of that stress go and to, we'll watch your kids. You don't have to worry about it for a couple hours.
No, that's great, because I know that's a need that people have expressed is like, it's great if we can do something together, but sometimes I just need a break, and I need to know that they're doing something that's, that's good for them too.
Productive. Yeah,
so you can feel good about that. So when you're looking as an executive director, when you're looking at programming to bring into the Y, what are some of the things that you look for that make a really good program?
So quality programming is a term that we use a lot in the YMCA. And oftentimes we've tried to do too much stuff and try to be, service too many people, be too broad of an organization. And so we've sort of reined that in. And what we're looking for are activities that can, like I said, ideally accommodate the whole family in some aspect. So having something for adults at the same time that we're having something for children. But we're also trying to look at popular trends. And we don't necessarily want to, we're looking for things that are going to keep people active, because we've noticed in society that there's an obvious epidemic. Obesity rates are through the roof,
Yep.
especially in our county, in Bristol County. It's the second worst in the state, I believe.
Wow.
And one of the worst in the country. And it's not just us, though. It's across the country. And so keeping people active and engaged is something that we're looking to do. But we want to we want to mirror that with what's happening, and that's why a lot of the stuff that you guys are doing at Mastermind is just really, really cool, because you're taking those popular trends and you're making them active. You're taking them from a video game or from a chat room, and you're moving them out into open space and in the environment where they can have those same activities, or that the same feeling that they're having in a game, in an actual real life activity.
Right.
So back to your original question, though, what are the things that we're looking for? We're looking for activities that are going to get people active, get people talking with each other. Relationship building is such a huge piece of what we do here at the Y.
Right.
For us, we want to make sure that not only do we know your name when you come into our building, but we know something about you, because you're our extended family.
Right.
And so we are looking for programming that can enhance that.
Mm-hmm.
And we're also looking for programming that is progressive. And we talked a little bit about that before, but we want to see something that doesn't have an end,
Mm-hmm.
Too often now you go out and you buy a product or a service, and it's almost got like an expiration date.
Right.
Best if used by. And we're trying to get programs that are going to go on forever.
Mm-hmm.
If you really enjoy them, we don't want it to expire. We want you to keep taking advantage of it.
Right. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love the community aspect of that.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice, because I think things can be so impersonal. And I know
Absolutely.
that's really important, and it's something that we really strive to do in our store too, is to know people's names, remember something about them, like
Right.
you said, make them feel like they're at home and that they're family. And I do feel like that when I walk in here. I
That's
do
great.
feel
Oh,
like,
I'm glad to
people
hear.
know us.
Yeah.
Yeah, they know us, and they ask about the kids, or
Right.
they ask about, you're doing a good job.
Well, thanks. We've got a great team. And we've got, I say team, and that obviously refers to the staff and volunteers, but we've got a great team of members too, who,
It's all about that.
yeah, they make a plan to come work out together.
Yeah.
And if they're not here, they want to know, where was Kristen today?
Right.
So.
Yeah. Well, it's part of it, right? So you try to, I know as a manager myself, you try to kind of create what's important, what your values are
Right.
in your staff, and then hopefully that translates to
Yep.
the community, and oftentimes it does, because
Absolutely.
I think what you put out there kind of reflects back at you, right? You
Right.
start to kind of see people that have your same values, that
Yep.
want to be
Absolutely.
part of that,
Yeah.
because they see what they want in
Right.
the community as well. So as a dad,
Yes.
as an educator,
Yes.
as an executive director, what are some of your favorite resources that you go to for inspiration? Or
I'm sort of all over the map. I can't say that I have one go-to thing. I do love TED Talks.
yes,
so,
I do too. We do TED Talk Tuesday in the group.
Oh, nice.
I always, yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, I spend a decent amount of my own personal time when I'm decompressing on YouTube, looking up either TED Talks or other inspirational activities or new programming that somebody might be doing. As a YMCA professional, I have professional journals that I look through. As a health and fitness professional, so I do a little bit of personal training still, not as much as I used to, but there's research journals that I'll look at, and then I just love it's funny, there are no dad groups online, so the mom groups are the ones that I'm always
why
looking
is
at.
that?
Like, I have no idea.
The moms are chattier.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. No dads are getting online and forming a group, unfortunately. So, excuse me. But I'll check out the moms groups.
Yeah.
And when I was working in North Attleboro, there was a very active group, two of them. There was the Moms Club of North Attleboro, which were basically 40 or 50 families.
Wow.
And they would set up play dates and activities, and they would come to our Y all the time. to do. We had like a play structure like we do here, or we had cooking classes or something that the kids could participate in, and we'd have one-offs where we might just organize something for the moms. But they had a great newsletter that would tell you about all the fun things going on in town. And then Macaroni Kids was another one.
Macaroni Kids is great, yeah.
And I know that there's one in the general vicinity here, which I haven't hooked onto yet. But they're always great because they're always telling you, again, what's happening in your community that's going to be ideal for kids and families.
Right.
And I find that as a parent, I'm always looking for something fun and affordable to do with my kids. Because too often we get stuck at home. We've got to do the laundry, we've got to cook dinner, we've got to do the grocery shopping. How do we get the kids out and have fun? And it's a little bit easier even when it's 95 degrees out, because you can go outside. But in those winter months, when you're just struggling to find something to do, it can be a challenge. There's Facebook groups that I use. We love, my wife and I, with our boys, we love going to the zoo. We love going to the children's museums. So there's a great children's museum in Providence and another great one in Fall River. If you haven't been to the one in Fall River, you got to check that out. So those are the big resources, I would say.
Right. So you've touched on something. So when you're home and you're trying to get stuff done, as we all are, what are your best offline activity kind of go-tos for your kids?
For the kids? So our boys are still young. They're 3 and 2, so we're not completely connected into video games or anything yet. But they still love Disney Junior and all that stuff. So we try to limit the amount of TV that they can watch. So when they're not doing that sort of stuff, they love to free play. We've got a playroom for them with I think 1 million toys.
It feels like that, I know. Yeah.
We cycle through them too. We'll take some of the toys away.
Yeah.
Under the cover of dark.
Yes.
And then they don't miss them, and then we'll reintroduce them in a month or two, and it's like they got a brand new toy.
Right. Yeah.
But the other cool thing, excuse me, that we like to do is just free play outside. So we'll turn the sprinkler on a hot day like today, and the kids will literally play in the sprinkler for 45 minutes to an hour, running back and forth, playing with the hose. We've got these cool, they're not water balloons, but they kind of feel like it. They're a ball that you can toss back and forth.
Oh yeah, little squish balls.
Yeah, and each time you catch it, a little water splashes out.
Yeah.
Our kids love to run around. I don't know what they're playing when they're running around, but I think they're just running from one end to the other and just getting some of that energy out.
Burning it off.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So let's see, I gotta check my time. Oh, we've got plenty of time.
Great.
So your favorite resources I asked you about. Let's talk about physical activity in kids.
Sure.
And why, you talked a little bit about the obesity rate right here in our beloved county. But what is it about physical activity that is beneficial to kids?
Sure. So I am a physical education nerd. I'm just going to put that out there. And I've gone to a lot of trainings. I've gone to a lot of seminars. On everything from how to become a personal trainer to the other extreme of like CrossFit and all of that sort of stuff. And the one thing that I have learned is that until we teach children, they know how to exercise completely fine. They're perfect at it. As a matter of fact, their biomechanics are ideal. If you look at a 2-year-old, once a child starts walking, so anywhere from a year to 2 years old, and watch them squat down, it's the perfect form. They don't need to be taught. It's when we start introducing all of these other things and all of these other complications, including sneakers, that kids start to have different movement patterns and they start to get hurt. There's a preponderance of high school girls who are having ACL and MCL problems, and it's predominantly because they're playing too much of one sport.
What is that? What's an ACL?
ACL and MCL are the ligaments that hold your knee together. So ACL in front, MCL on the inside. Okay. And so
it's a repetitive stress injury?
Yeah, exactly. So I tell you all of this because there's everybody wants to be active, but there's sort of this other side that's saying, a lot of this stuff is bad. You shouldn't have a child run a mile. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that. But the reality is, it's our natural being. When you go back in history, we used to have to hunt for our food, and so naturally people would run 20 or 30 miles to catch their food. And now we drive less than 2 miles to the grocery store and buy all of the food we can and then bring it home. So obviously what our finely tuned bodies have been created for or developed for, we're not really using them the way we used to. When you get a child active, when you get anybody active, when you get a child active though, it releases endorphins and it makes them feel better. Just generally speaking, it makes them feel better. It makes them feel better about themselves. It reduces stress. It makes them feel happy. And this is anything from playing a game of soccer or basketball to running on a treadmill, running outside, playing catch with somebody else. Any sort of physical activity and being active for anything more than, let's call it 15 minutes, is going to start to release those endorphins and make a person feel more confident and feel better about themselves. There have been a ton of studies done about this, and it's just amazing to see. If you go for a run, let's say you want to run your first 5K, which is always a big scary thing because nobody wants to run for 30 or 40 minutes. But as you progress, you'll see people over time feel much better about themselves, and they look forward to exercising because they don't only feel much better about themselves, they just feel better. It reduces stress, it reduces cholesterol. If you've got high numbers, it can help to reduce those. And it doesn't matter if you're 12 or 50, they all have the same effect. It can lower your resting heart rate. It can improve the efficiency of your heart, so you'll pump in more blood and oxygen per pump, so you don't have to pump as many times. So that's why you have a lower heart rate. And all of these, medical things that it's better for your body is great, but the biggest piece at the end of the day is that you just feel better, you feel good, you feel happy when you exercise. Not necessarily the first 5 minutes, but by the time you're done, you definitely feel happier.
Right. So we just want to look for even going for a walk, right?
Yeah, even for a walk
for 20 minutes.
Yep. So I think it's the Surgeon General's recommendation is 150 minutes of physical activity per week. Now they have different categories of moderate to vigorous. I'm not even worried about that.
Right.
If you can accumulate,
just get active.
if you can accumulate 150 minutes a week of physical activity, whether that means parking at the far end of the parking lot and walking the 5 minutes into the building, or taking the stairs instead of the elevator, whatever it might be, 150 minutes a week is going to make you feel better.
Is it more for kids than adults?
It's general. It's just open.
Really? So 150 minutes in general.
Yep. And so that was sort of put out, it was put out a while ago, but it's really been brought up a lot in the last decade or so because of this obesity trend, because of the epidemic that we're seeing. Just getting people active. You really start to reap the benefits of physical activity with anything longer than a 15-minute increment. But if you don't have 15 minutes, walk for 5.
Do it anyway.
And just try to build up. There are many people that can't get out and just walk for 15 minutes because they don't have the capacity yet. But it's okay. You'll get there. Just start small and set goals, and you'll get there. So start at 5 minutes and work your way up to 15.
Right. Yeah, we see a lot of, we're in the mall. We're in the Swansea Mall.
Yes.
So we see a lot of
The mall walkers. Yeah.
And it's great, they're mostly older,
Right.
older people, not always women. There's men and women, but it's kind of nice because they have their own community too.
Right.
They talk to each other and they get coffee afterwards and stuff like that. So yeah, any little bit, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's great on, mall walking is great on days like today. So we always think about like the winter, but on days like today, where it's 95, we're in day 6. It's perfect because it's nice and cool in there.
Right. So. Yeah. So, so you've got some awesome programs happening right now.
Yes.
Your summer camps.
Yep.
And you said that the Fall River Y is joining you guys here for...
Yeah, the Fall River YMCA brings their kids over to us. So between our camp and Fall River, there's about 225 kids on site per day. And they, so camp for us runs 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. We have extended hours if you need it, but the meat of the day is 9 to 4. And people, the kids will get into groups of like ages. So, 7 and 8-year-olds are together, 9 and 10-year-olds are together, and they'll rotate every 40 minutes or so to a different activity. So an average day could look like kickball in the small field, going to the ropes course and either climbing the rock wall or getting onto, if you're brave, one of our higher elements, which are 30 or 40 feet in the air. And then going over to archery and learning how to shoot an arrow. And that's a progressive program, as we talked about before, where they can set goals and kind of grow and go beyond that. We added STEM this year, so everything from making model rockets to an exploding volcano and smaller activities and larger. Lunch, and for us, lunch is provided because there are so many kids in need in our community. So lunch is provided at no cost. And then it's prepared by the school department, which they have to follow USDA guidelines. So we know it's a generally healthy lunch. So after lunch, then maybe there'll be some water play, arts and crafts, and then maybe another active game towards the end of the day.
Awesome.
So the kids are busy for 8 or 9 hours, and they go home and they're ready to go to bed. So.
Yeah, they're ready to crash. They're like, I don't want to play outside now.
Exactly.
I've been playing outside all day.
Exactly.
Oh, that's great. So what are some tips that you have for parents to kind of use, if they're not right here or
Sure.
they're not close to a Y, what are some kind of practical things that they can do either with their kids or set up for their kids to get their kids active and moving?
So I think the biggest piece is to find something that your child enjoys. And whether that's a book or a video game or even a board game, and try to take that and transfer it into something that you can do outside. So you might not be able to play a role-playing game outside, but you could take some elements of it and and implement those and get some supplies, whatever that might look like, and use those. Like I was saying with my boys, we put on the sprinkler and we're running back and forth. Something as simple as a sprinkler, and we might play pass through the sprinkler, or we might have something on the other end of the yard and we have to run from point A to the other side of the yard without getting wet. If we get wet, we got to go back and we got to try it again. So I guess what I'm saying is you've got to tap your inner child. And if there's no YMCA or other community organization around you, you can certainly stay active. And I've always advocated that you want to keep it simple. The simpler, the better. So the less equipment that you need, the less supplies that you need, the more fun you can have, because you can be more imaginative and more creative.
Right. So really tap into your creativity.
Yeah. And your kids will enjoy it too. Invite them to participate in the creativity part of it.
Right.
I don't know if you've ever had a 3-year-old explain the rules of a game to you, but my son did that to me the other day. I had no idea what he was talking about, but I just followed him, and we had fun for like a half an hour.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. I know kids really do. If they're given that kind of space, I think that they'll fill it.
Yeah,
absolutely. With their imagination most of the time. I think sometimes reminding kids that they can have the space to be creative,
right,
is sometimes the hardest part.
Absolutely.
Right, is just kind of because they can get very stuck in that, like, oh, I'm bored, there's nothing to do,
Yeah.
So kind of trying to get them out of that and like you said, use things that inspire them,
right,
that they're really into. I think that's a really, really great tip. So talk about because it's summer, but talk about some of your fall programming.
Sure.
Because I think it's going to be a couple weeks before we air this. So yeah, talk about maybe what are you excited about for the fall?
For the fall for us, it gets a little bit quieter here, so we're able to plan a little bit more, which is not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
But I know on the horizon in the fall, so we are going to have a progressive archery program. So right now archery is predominantly done in camp.
Yeah.
At the end of the camp season, we'll offer it up to members. So really all ages, starting at age 6, can participate in our archery programs.
Oh, that's great.
We've got a small course with shooting distances up to 40 yards.
Wow.
So people can really test their skills, starting closer, build upon that baseline skill level, and move further away. We'll do 2 things with the ropes course. So we have a family adventure night. We do it in the summertime, but we'll keep going until the weather doesn't allow us to do it anymore, which is typically mid to late October. That's free for members. Anybody can come down. Right now it's Monday nights. We'll open up a couple of elements, and you get to try them out as best you can.
That's cool.
And if you're a member, like I said, there's no cost. So maybe you want to try the climbing wall.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to try the climbing wall and only use the purple and blue grips.
Yeah.
We'll put out different challenges like that. We've got 11 high ropes elements. and 6 low ropes elements. So we'll open usually 2 on one of those evenings, and we try to rotate them every week so it's something different. Chris and I have talked. We have a zip line, which you will never catch me on, but it's safe. I just don't like heights. So we try to open that up a couple times too, and people just get a kick out of it. They just love it.
Oh,
the whole ropes course experience. So that's the family adventure night, and then we do an educational program, which is fee-based, and that runs once a week, and we'll get into the technical stuff of how to properly belay, how to tie knots, and then using those to actually use the ropes course in different elements.
Wow.
And then we have our traditional sports programs. So basketball, I said the Y invented basketball, is one of our more popular sports here. So we've got adult basketball leagues, we've got youth clinics, so we'll be offering those in the fall, especially as we get later into the fall and we get closer to the winter. We'll start to ramp that up and have our basketball leagues. We've got a very active high school basketball league. This is the 2nd season of running it, so we started it in the spring. Now we're bringing it back in the summertime, and we've got about 45 high school age kids. And high school kids don't do anything.
No.
So for them to come down and play basketball every week in an organized fashion, you know, I mean, it's just really, really cool. And then we'll do soccer too.
Yeah.
We have soccer. We tend not to do as much competitive soccer. It's more instructional for the little guys. You know, the town here has some great rec leagues, so we're not trying to encroach upon that, but we want to help set kids and families up so that they're ready to make that step when it's time to go there.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I didn't know you guys had all that.
Yeah,
that's
we've got
great.
a ton of space out there. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you guys some beautiful space. And do you guys do after-school programming too?
We do, yeah. So we provide after-school care for families that need it, both Swansea and Somerset. The kids are bused here, so at the end of the day, they come here. It's a licensed program in the state of Massachusetts. It's curriculum-based, so we have different themes each week and each month. We'll be learning everything from STEM to you know, your basic arithmetic, or your core skills, I should say. We do homework time, we have reading time, we have active play time, and we provide a snack. So,
awesome. Yeah, and that a lot of the YMCA's provide that in their community.
Most YMCA's offer some form of childcare.
Yeah.
I can't think of any that don't, but I'm sure there's some.
Right. Yeah. Okay, that is awesome. And how can parents in their own geographic areas, because like I said, most of everybody here is from Massachusetts and Rhode Island, but we do have some outliers. If there's a YMCA in their area, how can parents kind of tap into that to use as resources for them?
So the easiest, there's a couple of different things you can do. Most YMCA's now have some sort of a social media profile. I think it's still predominantly Facebook, but there are some that are more progressive that are on Instagram and on Twitter. Right. But you can always check their Facebook page. Let me back up. If you're not sure if there's a YMCA in your area, you can go to ymca.net, and you can basically do Find My Y, or Is There a Y Near Me, sort of a concept. So check their social media profile. That's usually more active than their website. But also check their website, because it's going to have their fundamental programming on there, so you can see what's available. And then I encourage you to go down. Most YMCA's have some sort of like a try it free pass, whether it's for 3 days or a week. And you can explore and see if it's going to be a good fit for you. They are predominantly family-based, so if you've got a young family or an older family, it's probably going to be a good accommodation for you. And they're also very senior-friendly, so our active older adults love the YMCA. So if you've got grandma or grandpa, get them into the Y too. So all of that said, most YMCA's are going to be willing to meet you where you're at. So if it's a financial problem that you don't feel like you can afford the Y is a nonprofit. And it does offer financial aid for anybody that can't afford the YMCA experience. That's number one. Number two, if there's a program that you're really interested in, talk to your YMCA. They're going to try and find a way to offer it. For us here, there was a call for dance programming. Luckily enough, we had a dance instructor on staff who loved dance and wanted to run her own dance program. And I was just telling Kristen that we had our first standalone dance recital a couple weeks ago with 80 students. And that's all because some parents said, hey, would you be interested in doing this? Because we'd be interested in doing it. We also work with homeschool groups. So there are, at least in the state of Massachusetts, and I'm pretty sure Rhode Island, there are health and wellness requirements for homeschooling. We offer a homeschool gym class that will meet that requirement. So you can talk to your local YMCA about offering that for you as well.
Right. Oh, that's great. Because you have a lot of homeschoolers.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do we.
Yeah.
There's a lot of homeschoolers that come here too.
Yeah.
So,
no, that's fantastic.
and it's a growing trend.
It is. Yeah.
And it's a strong partnership that the YMCA wants to nurture too.
Yeah. Well, I know. Well, at least locally, if you're a homeschooler on this page, if you're local, I think there's a group discount.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so Scott Medeiros, who's not here, he's outside with camp. Scott Medeiros is our program director, and he's actually already starting for the fall. He's got a homeschool network that's going to be coming in for gym classes once or twice a week. And it's cool. It's not like how many pull-ups can you do? You know,
Right,
not the 1950s class. Right. It's basically we're going to be active. We're going to have fun. We're going to play fun games.
Yeah.
And you know the way gym should be.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad I asked.
Yeah.
And what I also wanted to say that I know, like the homeschoolers have like a discount because of group whatever, but I know a lot of businesses too partner with you guys, so that's another thing to check out.
Yeah.
To see if you're.
And each Y is a little bit different. All of the Ys in our association here on the south coast of Massachusetts will honor the same deals.
Right.
But if you're in Florida or you're in Mississippi or wherever you're at, check in with your Y because I'm sure they have a discount for you. The promotion that we have started this year, which has been really successful, is a referral program. So if you know somebody who's a YMCA member and you join, you'll both get 20% off of your membership every month for the length of your membership. So if Kristen and I join together, we get 20% off, and as long as Kristen doesn't quit and I don't quit, we get that 20% off forever.
Cool. Yeah.
So
that is
a cool
awesome.
deal.
Yeah. Well, you guys have been a huge partner with us, and we appreciate all that. We love coming to Healthy Kids Day.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Do you guys do one of those in the fall or anything
no,
like that?
Not really in the fall.
Just the summer.
We have Trunk or Treat in the fall.
Trunk or Treat.
So,
those are so fun.
Yeah.
So if you guys don't know what Trunk or Treat is, it's kind of a safe trick or treating thing where everybody decorates their trunk and has candy, right?
Candy or whatever. Yeah. And a lot of people are doing healthier alternatives now, but we still do.
Here's your hummus.
Yeah, exactly. Your popcorn ball. Yeah. So that is usually the week before Halloween. We had about 20 cars last year.
Awesome.
We did some activities in the gym too. We had it was raining, but we had planned, the Boy Scouts were going to do a fire and some warm cider.
Awesome.
And I think we had like 300 kids last year.
Gosh, that's fantastic.
So, and it's only a couple of dollars just to cover the cost of the administrative stuff. So it's real cheap. And you come down and have fun. Dress up.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for talking with our community.
Absolutely.
I so appreciate it. And maybe we'll tap you again.
That'd be great.
I'd
love to.
Spring programming is coming around.
Very cool.
And tell people more about
Sounds
that.
Good.
Yeah.
Thanks,
all right.
Kristen.
Thanks so much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of Let's Play, Supporting Screen Time Alternatives video series, featuring professionals who make offline time more manageable. You can watch these episodes live every Monday at 12 p.m. in our Let's Play Facebook community, where you can also participate in discussions and Facebook Live Q&A sessions and demonstrations. You can find me, Kristen Kalina, on our Mastermind Adventures Facebook page or by emailing info@mastermindadventures.com. If you're in the southern Massachusetts or Rhode Island area, drop by our game lounge and Nerf Arena in the Swansea Mall and say hello. You can also find the show notes and a recap of every episode by visiting our website, mastermindadventures.com, under the Parent portal. We'll see you next week.